Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. Today we are here to revisit what I previously called a convertible backpack. You may remember it had a round base. It could be worn crossbody or on your shoulders as a backpack. And so I've taken that basic design and I have decreased the height of the bag, and I have added a drawstring top closure to it. You have your 4 pockets on the inside and your 4 pockets on the outside. And then I incorporated 2 strap hangers on that back seam. So you can create a custom strap that serves your needs perfectly. So you could create a full length adjustable fabric strap with the 2 swivel fobs, and then you could wear that bag crossbody or comfortably over your shoulder like a sling bag, or you could incorporate just a single cut of the webbing and attach that to the D-rings and just carry it snug on the shoulder. You may want to create like a little scarf strap. You could actually knot a pretty scarf in each end and have a nice comfy strap like that. So that's why it does not have its strap attached, because I am in search of a nice big fat cut of leather so I could create a fun funky strap for this bag. But I really am thrilled with the size of this. I think making it a little shorter was a good choice. And I love the drawstring, which you could also use as the handle for this bag and just omit these strap tabs. So I want to give you the measurements on this bag so you can decide if it is a good fit for you. It's about 10 inches tall, and then the diameter of this is 8 inches. So it is a great size for everyday use. It would also make a darling project bag for you. So I would love to know how you're going to use the bag. I'm really excited to see what you do with the strap. So please share photos on the Facebook group page for me, or tag me on Instagram using @Sewspire or #Sewspire so I can see your pretty bags. I'm going to be putting together a showcase of Sewspire projects that you all have created for you, and I'll be sharing that with you soon. So before we get started, don't forget there is a design board for this project. You can purchase that for a nominal fee and then save it to your computer, download it, print it, whatever you want to do with those. I am creating a new design board for every tutorial I produce in 2021. So without further ado, shall we get started? Okay, so for this project, you're going to need to trace a 9-inch circle. I like to fold a 10-inch square in half and then in half again to get those center points. And then I use my clear acrylic ruler to measure out 4.5 inches around that. And then I just take my scissors and connect all those lines, and that works really good. It doesn't have to be exactly a perfect circle, but pretty close. You can see when I fold it in half there that that's not too bad. If you happen to have a protractor that's that big, you could achieve a perfect circle for yourself. And then I save that, so when I make more, I have that on hand. So you'll be cutting out 2 of those 9-inch circles. One will be your interior and one will be your exterior. And you are welcome to use interfacing on those. I'm just going with a very light interfacing, like Pellon 808, Pellon 809 works wonderfully. And I only put one piece of that on the exterior, but you're welcome to interface both of those. A lot of it depends upon the contents you're going to hold. Then you're going to have pockets on the inside and the outside of this. We're going to use a new pocket technique for this. So your exterior pocket panels will measure 8 inches tall by 29.5 inches long, and the lining for those will be 9 inches tall by 29.5 inches long. And so you will have a total of 4 panels, 2 of which will comprise the exterior pockets and 2 of which will comprise the interior pockets. So I have pre-crafted my exterior pockets for the sake of time, but this panel here shows you the look that we're going to achieve. So the 8-inch panel becomes the exterior of the pocket, and then the 9-inch panel doubles as the lining and the little accent that's going to peep up over the top of that pocket. And I'm going to show you how to achieve that look. So you will position the 8-inch pocket panel and the 9-inch pocket panel right sides facing, align that top edge, and then using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, go ahead and run a row of stitching down that top edge. And then you're going to flip the front of that pocket over and align the bottom edge. Then give that a good press, and that interior lining fabric will peep up just a bit right over the top edge of that pocket. Okay, and here's what it looks like when it's pressed. And then I'm just going to run a row of stitching along the exterior edge, so just slightly below that seam there. And I line the right hand edge of the presser foot up with the bottom edge of that lining fabric. And my thread happens to coordinate perfectly, so you may not be able to see that. You can probably see on this side here, but that comes down about 3/4 of an inch from the top of that pocket. You're also welcome to interface your pockets if you like. I did put one layer of the 808, 809 on the interior of my exterior pocket, but I'm not going to add any interfacing at all to the interior of this project because I want this bag to stay nice and lightweight, and I want the drawstring to function well. And sometimes when you add too much interfacing, that inhibits the drawstring. So what I need to do now is divide my pocket. This side seam will create one division. So I want to add 3 rows of stitching. So I'm going to finger press that pocket in half to create a vertical stitch line there. And then I'm going to bring the outer edges inward to meet on that center press line. So I achieve 2 more vertical press lines there. And the pocket is aligned with the base of the exterior panel, which is 12 inches tall by 29.5 inches across. And finished, these pockets measure 8 inches tall, so you have 4 inches of space here at the top of the bag. And I'm going to reinforce at the top of each pocket division with a back stitch because that will become a stressor point. And then I'm just going to stitch off the edge there to divide the pocket, and I'll add 1, 2, 3 rows of stitching. Okay, so now for the interior, I'm going to fold this panel in half and align those sides. And then using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch down that right hand side. And then just open that up and make sure that you've captured all the layers of your pocket in there. And so now you have a nice round tube there. And what we want to do is attach the base of the interior to this exterior tube. So press your base in half and then fold that over to create 4 sections, and these are actually called quarter marks. And so we're going to use these quarter marks to align the base with first the side seam that we just put into place. And I'm going to go ahead and open that seam up a bit so it's not too lumpy. And then right across from that, you should have a stitch line where you divided your pocket. And so I'm going to clip that. And then when you come over on each remaining side, that press line should align nicely with your pocket stitch lines. And so you're going to attach it first at these quarter marks, and then you can come back in and add some clips in between each quarter. And when you're lining these edges up, you want to make sure that you're capturing all the layers of the pocket. So you don't want any holes in your pockets. All right, there we go. And so now you're going to use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and attach this base to the interior. I like to start right at that side seam. And so now what I'm going to do is fold over the top edge of this bag, and I'm folding that over about an inch, and I'm clipping that, and so you can see I have 4 really awesome pockets inside of there. I really like the light interior fabric because then you can see inside, and the light color keeps everything nice and bright. So I'm going to set that aside for a few minutes here and bring over the exterior, which I have begun prepping here. So I fashioned the pocket in the exact same way, and I have a beautiful iCat print on this. Then I have taken a 5-inch piece of 1¼ inch webbing, and I have looped that around a D-ring, and then put the raw edge of that off the right hand side, and it is about 2½ inches up from the base. The strap is going to get joined on this other opposite side of that D-ring, but I wanted to put this little hinge piece here so we can reduce the point of stress and get it out of that seam and put it on this D-ring. So what I want to do is just run a row of stitching across that webbing and the fabric so that I can add some additional stability to this. And I will link to this webbing down in the notes. It's a really awesome cotton webbing that I get from Big Duck Canvas. I have an affiliate link with them. So if you use my link, you can help support the channel. And I do certainly appreciate that. So as mentioned, the pockets are attached. I did the same thing. I divided them in fourths by adding those 3 rows of stitching at the quarter marks. And so now I can fold this in half. And for the exterior, the first thing I align is the pockets, because you don't want those off center because it's going to be really obvious on the exterior. It's not quite as important on the interior. And mine were slightly staggered because I did not double check. So make sure you do. And then same thing, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch down the right hand edge. And then we want to look inside and make sure all of the layers are attached, and they are. And then I want to make sure those pockets are aligned and they're looking good. This fabric is a woven, so it frays, so I'm just going to get rid of the little frays that made their way to the opposite side of that seam right now before I attach the base. And so for the exterior, same thing, you have a 9-inch circle, and you're going to want to press in quarter marks on that. This fabric is really colorful, so I'm going to mark those with my clips as well so I can make sure that I am in fact lining those up on the quarter marks. So you can see I have my little handle hinge here securely attached, and I'm going to begin at that side seam first, and your fabric will be right sides facing. And then I'm going to come to the opposite side and line that up with the pocket division. And then the remaining two sides should also line up with the pocket division. Okay, so I have substantially more clips on this. I'm going to peek in before I start sewing into the inside and see what it looks like. It does look nice, even with just a few. I think there'll end up being just a few little puckers in that, but it does look pretty. So I'm going to attach this again using the same 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I really think a walking foot would be very useful for this because the fabric is puckering on the top, not on the bottom. Okay, I made it all the way around and very few puckers in the base, so it is just with the top there. Again, I don't mind the look of it, but I'm always curious, you know, why things happen, and so that's why I wanted to take a chance and investigate that. But basically, you would need a walking foot to eliminate that. I do have a walking foot that came with this Juki. I just have not installed it. Also, the other thing I have going for me, this fabric is so busy that those little pleats in the base there are less likely to be noticed. And I'll have to review the original tutorial for this and see if that was the case also with that bag, but that base is completely concealed underneath of it, so it really doesn't impact the look of the design. I've just been sewing garments with expert seamstresses, and so I'm starting to pay more attention to these things, where in the past they never really bothered me. So you have a back seam here with our little strap tab. You have a 4-way divided pocket. Then you're going to want to fold this top edge over about an inch. It's actually going inward about an inch, and I like to clip that in place. Okay, there we go. So that's the exterior. Now I can fit this interior inside of there. I want to line up those rear seams. And then the same thing, try and come directly across from that seam. So you're going to be lining up the pocket seams now, but at the top. And then once you get the one that's directly across in place, then you can pull on that top and start easing that lining into the exterior. Okay, so I have the interior fit inside of the exterior, and I've done my best to line up all the intersections where the pockets are divided to ensure that the lining fits properly. Then I took another 5-inch cut of that 1 1/4 inch webbing and a 1-inch D-ring, maybe 1 1/4 inches, although I feel like it's 1 inch. And I wrap that webbing around that. And this is going to be inserted between the exterior and the interior layers at that seam, but we are going to be adding a drawstring gusset all the way around the top of this. So I'm just going to leave that kind of in place so I don't accidentally forget to install it, but we will have to adjust that. Okay, so for the gusset, you're going to need another 29.5 inch long cut that is 3 inches wide. You can go ahead and fold over one of the raw edges about an inch and then press that whole strip in half, wrong sides facing. And I have already test fit mine, so the opposite edge is folded over. But you're going to need to test fit yours before you know how much you should fold that opposite edge over. So you want these folded edges to end up on the front of the bag, which is exactly opposite of where this side seam is. So you're going to need to mark center of this little gusset and insert that at the back of the bag. So I'm going to remove some of these clips so that I can get some leeway there on that. And you do not want the gusset to go too far down in between, like I would say ideally a 1/2 inch or less, but you certainly still want to capture it in your seam allowance. So try, if at all possible, to leave 1 inch of that gusset peeking up around the top of this bag. And at this point you will have to switch to pins. These long tulip pins are fabulous. I do prefer that you leave it too long and have to trim than cut it too short, because there won't be anything you could do if it's too short. I'm just going to fold this back a little bit more, and then I'll turn this around so you can see what the goal is of this gusset. Okay, so the objective is for these finished edges to end up at the front of the bag, very near that pocket seam. And so now that I know I have the right length going all the way around here, and I have the gusset approximately a 1/2 inch in between the interior and the exterior layers, and you can see I have a nice inch here above, because this is where the drawstring is going to thread through, so you want that to flow nicely. Now what I want to do is just free these ends so that I can open this up and just run a row of stitching so that folded edge will stay down. And you could do 1 or 2 rows. You don't want to do this ahead of time, because then if you need to shorten the strap, you have to pick out all that stitching. And since these ends are pretty long, I'm going to go ahead and run 2 rows of stitching. And I'm just going to work one side at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck this one back in there so that my lining doesn't get too distorted in this process. And then I'll free this side, which is much shorter. I won't have to trim anything. And I'll put that up on there and run my 2 rows of stitching so they match. And then that just gets folded back over, and those raw edges get tucked in between. And that worked out very nice. Okay, that's what that looks like. Now I cannot forget to reinstall my little tab on the back there, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch these raw edges together so that it doesn't shift. And then I'm going to center that along the back there in between the interior and the exterior layers. And that drawstring is going to be on the inside of this strap tab here. so that it's actually the exterior, the strap tab, the drawstring gusset, and then the interior there. And then I want to put this up on the machine deck, and I'm going to start a little before the strap tab so that I don't start on all those layers. I'm going to need to go nice and slow across that webbing. This is a heavy duty webbing. If you use a lighter webbing like you would find at Joann's or Hobby Lobby, you'll be just fine. But I am definitely going to reinforce that strap tab with a back stitch. And my machine foot is aligned with the top of the exterior, not the gusset. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue all the way around. I'm going to keep my hand on the inside so I can make sure the interior doesn't shift. And I'm going to keep my eye on that gusset to make sure that it doesn't come out from the layers and that I maintain that 1 inch. Okay, I've made it all the way around. Now I'm just going to add a second row of stitching to that strap tab to reinforce it. Alright, I made it all the way around. I have 4 pockets on the interior, 4 pockets on the exterior. I have a strap tab at the base along the seam and a strap tab at the top along the seam on the front of that drawstring. Now I want to craft the drawstring for this. This is a 3 inch by 44 inch cut of material. I did fold in those short edges to finish that, and then I pressed the whole thing in half, wrong sides facing, the entire length of the strap, and then I took those raw edges inward to that center press line and I folded that over one more time to create a very long drawstring. And now I'm going to stitch down this open edge to create a finished drawstring. I've stitched all the way down the open edge of that drawstring. Now I'm going to use a large safety pin to thread this through this little gusset that we put on the top of the bag. And then as you come out the opposite edge there, just make sure that you don't pull too much of your drawstring through and then you lose the other end. But this is a nice long drawstring, so you should be okay as long as you don't pull too hard. And the folded ends on these drawstrings are a little bit of a challenge to get through the opening, but it's just the right amount of resistance that you won't be fishing your drawstring out every time. So you just have to get that first few inches through. Okay, so I've got the drawstring thread through, and if you had a huge toggle or a bead, you could thread both ends through here. I think that would be super cute. I'm just going to cinch it up first and see how much leeway I have there. So when it's cinched, that's what it looks like, and then these exterior pockets pop open, which is a lot of fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and knot mine at the end here, but I may hunt for a wooden bead because I think that would be so cute at the very end. And then when you want to open it, you can go just like that, and that's how much tail you'll have there at the end. And then when you want to close it, the fabric drawstring has enough resistance on it that it keeps it closed, but a toggle would also allow you to cinch that right up on there, so you have a lot of flexibility with this drawstring. You're also welcome to just use traditional cording, and then you can definitely find the pieces that you need, but I'm picturing a darling painted wooden bead, so that's what I'm going to seek out. Now the last thing we need to do is make some decisions as to what kind of strap you would like to attach to this. I think it would be a ton of fun to find a raw scrap of leather and attach to this. You could also use an existing strap that you have that has the swivel fobs on it. I'll grab one that I have pre-made and show you what that looks like. So this doesn't necessarily match this, but most of you know how to craft my adjustable padded messenger strap. I'll put a link to a tutorial that has this in it if you want to create your own. And so that would allow you to have an adjustable strap on the bag, which then you can make longer in case you wanted to carry it crossbody like that. I am going to use this bag though just as a shoulder sling bag. So what I am looking for is a very short, sturdy strap. And so in my case, this webbing is going to be just perfect. But again, if I come across a really cool piece of leather, I used to have some green leather, I might swap this out and put that on there. So all I'm going to do is measure out my webbing there and then join that with each of these D-rings here. So I just thread that strap through. And the real trick is getting the right length for your body so that you're comfortable. And I just want mine nice and short, so I'm just like this. Basically, I'm just getting from the car into the grocery store, and then I'm gonna plop this right down in the front of the cart, and I can even push the cart and hold the handle like that. So I'm going to continue to play with the strap because I do want to get the proper length for this. But again, you have lots of options as to what kind of strap you attach to this and how you secure this drawstring. You could also just tie it in a knot closer up or tie it in a bow. I'll be looking forward to seeing what you do with this design. Okay, so this turned out really cute. I am going to leave my options open when it comes to this strap because I really would like to find a fun, funky piece of leather to put on there. So I want to do something cool with that, but I can also just use this drawstring, right, as a strap as well. I'll be sure to share photos of the strap that I select for my piece, and I hope you will do the same. Don't forget, there's a design board for this project. I'll link to my Etsy pattern shop down in the notes. And then just as a reminder, I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off. We're going on vacation, and then I have some other responsibilities that I need to handle. And I will be back after I get everything put back in order. I will be hanging out in the Facebook group page and on Instagram, and of course over on the Sewspire Patreon page. So if you are missing me, please check those spots to keep in touch while I take this little hiatus from YouTube. And as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Bye-bye, everyone.